Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Guilty, 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 I say. Derek Chauvin, guilty on all accounts. All charges filed against him. Welcome back, folks. Standing Brothers Show, episode number 75. Coming at you. You're not buzzing?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Keep going.
Okay. Coming back at you, episode number 75 of the show. I'm your host, Jacob Standards. You can follow me on Twitter at _, and you can follow Joe, who is back.
I am back.
This week you can follow him at Joe Stanberg.
On the Tweety.
Couple little housekeeping things to get out of the way. You can support us by joining the website that is patreon.com. That's patreon.com. I believe it's / Standing Brothers Show. You can go ahead there. Link will be in the description as well. Hey, you want to get a cool t-shirt, Standing Brothers Show t-shirt? Got you covered. Teespring store. Check it out down below. Also, something new, something that I'm working on. I have launched a Substack column that I'm going to try to write on maybe once a week, if not once every other week. So go check that out. It's called Liberty Overdrive. .substack.com. Cranking that Liberty to 11. You gotta remember, if this is a music term, but if you crank up the gain on the amp, you'll begin breaking up, so you'll get distortion, right? Mm-hmm. You gotta break up the system. Crank that Liberty up.
There you go.
So I'm excited about that.
That is the most generic name you could think of.
Liberty Overdrive. There you go. Go check it out. I already have one article that I wrote. It's kind of a baseline that I'm kind of setting the tone. I talk about the last year in about 4 or 5 paragraphs. The last year, just all of the insanity that went on, and then my tone and my message going forward for the Substack. It's not going to be about the lockdowns and the virus, but it's kind of setting a good baseline message of what the whole thing's going to be about.
Cool.
Kind of a battle cry. Joe, how was your week?
It's good. Good. I bought a car.
Congratulations.
Bought a car this week. That's great. I needed a car. I sold my other car because it wasn't dying on me, but it was time for a change. Yeah. So saved up the money, bought me a car. Interesting thing happened to me today as I was leaving work. I'm leaving work. I'm walking outside, and I hear a helicopter. I'm like, oh, okay, you hear a helicopter every now and then. But then it starts getting lower and lower and lower, and it's blue and white. I'm like, oh, gosh, something's going down. Then I realize it's the medevac. Like, it's the life flight, those helicopters that pick people up from those really bad accidents. So I'm seeing it get lower and lower, and I look over at the major intersection by where we work, and there's all kinds of police cars. The fire department had all the lanes blocked off. It was a horrible, horrible accident. And the touchdown right there in the middle of the road, the helicopter did, and they took somebody to the hospital, which was kind of crazy. I hope they're all right.
Was it an accident that you saw?
Yeah, I didn't see the accident happen, but what I'm guessing was the way the cars were positioned, someone ran a red light or they weren't paying attention. And but thoughts and prayers with all those that were involved. Seriously,
and that's a bad intersection because you have people flying through that one. Because I mean, it's a highway essentially, which is what that one road is.
And there's probably about 30 or 50 semis just parked because they couldn't go anywhere. They had to wait it out. Yeah. But anyway,
So yeah, now the housekeeping's out of the way, and the how's our weeks went is out of the way. The Yankees won a game.
I know, it's amazing.
2 games. They split the series with the Atlanta Braves. It was a horrible series to watch because they dropped the ball a lot, figuratively
and literally.
The offense is not there for those 2 games, but they were able to squeak a game out by the Braves' mistakes via a wild pitch and a bases-loaded walk.
Yeah, can you even really call that a win, honestly?
That's why I was like, I wrote on Twitter, I said, a win's a win, even if it's ugly.
Yeah.
And then they played Cleveland last night and had a very good game against Cleveland. Cleveland is a good team. They have a good they're a shell of the former team, absolutely. But they did play a good game. A lot of good hits with runners in scoring position. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Everything else is there.
Maybe this is the start of a new trend. It might start trending upward. But if it's just a fluke, a lot of people are saying, well, we got to fire Aaron Boone. I'm like,
No,
well, just
I don't
hold
know.
on a second. Hold on. Let's just take a minute here. I wish Aaron Boone would be more like Billy Martin and get in people's faces and, try to get the team going here because I see this a lot, not just Aaron Boone, not just the Yankees, but a lot of managers are starting to like baby their players. Like Judge played 5 games, then he had to take 3 days off. It's like, it's 5 games, bro. You're 29 years old.
Yeah.
You should be able to play more than 5 games in a row. So, and there's a lot of other things that have been going on. I'm just like, we can't rag on the manager too much because the manager really has no control of the game anymore. It's all the nerds upstairs with the calculators and the computers planning out the game before it even starts. All the analytic people. And the front office has way more control now than they ever did. So you really can't blame the manager all too much. If I were, an owner, I would say I would give the manager more authority. I would kind of kick the analytic guys out the door a little bit and let the manager kind of, because for the longest time, we had baseball and we won people won the World Series without analytics.
Yeah.
It can be done, folks. So just because the computer says one thing doesn't mean that's going to.
Well, it's the whole Billy
In
Bean
reality.
effect on the game. It was the Billy Bean effect.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Bean, those who don't know, you can watch Moneyball. It's a good, what is it? It's not a documentary. It's an actual movie, but it's about his life. It's about how he turned the Oakland Athletics around by almost spending no money and got them into the playoffs, just based on analytics and based on sabermetrics. That's people like, oh, well, we can just do that.
Yeah.
It's not
I think
always.
they take it a step too far because, there's a team like the Rays who have, not even half of the payroll that the Yankees do. The Yankees have one of the highest payrolls in baseball, and if I'm Hal Steinbrenner, I've got to be tearing my hair out right now because I'm paying all these guys all this money, and they're not producing anything. And we almost get swept by a team that has not even half of our payroll in Tampa. So I'm like, at some point something's got to give. Yes,
Yeah.
the nerds are telling me this, but I'm seeing what's happened on the field, and it's not working.
If you just trust your manager, the one who's actually on the field with them on the practice,
knows his players.
knows his players. That's something to think about. We'll see how tonight's game goes. I'm sure Monday we'll have more ranting to go about if it goes poorly. I did watch the highlights of last game. I was impressed. I was like, okay, now we're actually playing some Yankees baseball. That actually looks like it's going to be good. Domenico Herman went out there and did well. I'm looking for a good start from Jordan Montgomery tonight, who I do like. I do like Jordan Montgomery. I think he's a very underrated pitcher for our team. So hopefully he'll come out there and do a good job. So yeah, well, let's go and let's just break into the obviously the big elephant in the room, of course. Breaking news. I did mention on the last episode, it was my thoughts. Literally, as I was recording the episode, it broke across my phone that they had deliberated, and I gave my predictions, which, if those who listen to the episode know that those predictions were incorrect. And I'm going to still stand by my predictions because I have some things I'm going to talk about that. There's an interview that one of the jurors gave. One of the stand-ins or
alternative
the alternatives. Yes, the one that they would have subbed in if the judge felt necessary, but she was still there, a part of the entire case. She just did not go to the deliberation. Yes. So, those who don't know, I said I predicted that Chauvin would get off on all charges based on the case, based on the prosecution and the defense's case that they brought forward, because I didn't think the prosecution proved that without a reasonable doubt that Chauvin committed felony assault, which is what they were looking for,
and felony murder,
and which is what would cause the second degree murder charges that he needed to commit a felony assault. Basically, for me, it was the one training officer who said that he could have used a tase in that situation, which is a definitely more violent interaction with a civilian, is tasing them, especially someone like George Floyd, who had a lot of drugs in his system and a heart problem. Probably could have caused a lot more issues for him. Probably could have killed him. So, just that fact alone, that's saying that he could have acted more aggressive and he would have been justified in that. In my opinion, I don't know how you would convict somebody of felony assault, and then murder for doing that. then I got some other thoughts. What were your first initial thoughts? Obviously, he was guilty. He was found guilty on all charges. What were your first initial thoughts? Because we actually watched it together.
Right,
we were waiting. Tuesday, we were waiting for the jury to come out. The judge eventually came out and gave the guilty on all accounts.
To be honest with you, I was really surprised. I thought there was no way they're going to get him on felony murder. Manslaughter, maybe. But everything else, no. I thought there's no way this guy's going to spend 40-plus years in jail for doing this. Do I agree with what Derek... Now, I'm not defending Derek Chauvin in any means. I'm not defending the police. I'm not defending George Floyd. But given the interaction now, looking forward, if a police officer is trying to arrest someone for doing whatever crime, even if you disagree with it, and that person dies... Can they now be charged with felony assault? Is arresting someone now a felony? Is that assault now? Because that's literally what they decided in this case. I was surprised. I thought that he was going to walk. Maybe he would do 6 months, a couple years. But he's good. After they read the verdicts and they cuffed him and walked him out of the room, I was like, Jacob, that's a dead man walking. Because... Yeah. I don't think they'll put him in general population because if they do,
he's in solitary confinement right now.
Yeah, because he will not last very long if he was in general population. But I was. He didn't have any facial or emotional reaction when they read the verdicts, probably because they said that this is more unlikely what's going to happen given the circumstances.
So don't be surprised when they come.
Don't be surprised. But a part of me was like, you know what? I don't really care all that much. And the other part of me was like, well, I think that this is kind of the sacrificial lamb is what they're trying to do, trying to appease the mob. Because given a lot of things that happened with the jury and the way the judge did not allow a change of venue, there was no sequestration of the jurors. They were allowed to, he said, just don't watch the news. Like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, how are you not going to watch
I'm
the news?
driving through. I have to commute through George Floyd Square to get to the courthouse. I just won't look. I'll just look straight ahead. I won't look at the riots and the protesting.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I saw, obviously I had my initial reactions. I was kind of shocked. Not so much shocked that because I knew that it was a 50-50 shot as far as I was more looking at it ignoring the protests, ignoring the violence. I was looking at it just as if this was a purely fair trial that had that didn't have a year of violence and that didn't have an entire month where you had some of these cities were just complete war zones due to the outcry of what happened to George Floyd. But the thing that I forgot about, and I mean, I still hold my predictions is valid. The thing I forgot about though was that threat of violence. Mm-hmm. I still to this day cannot, and no one will ever convince me of this, that the threat of America being burned to the ground if Chauvin walked free did not pass through any of those jurors' minds. There's no way. I'm sorry. You're not going to find anyone in this country who was of sound mind that did not hear an opinion, watch the video, or watch any sort of news coverage of the incident or of what happened over the summer. You had Maxine Waters, who stood outside of this. She flew from California to Minneapolis, had no business being in Minneapolis other than to stir up trouble, saying that we need to get more confrontational, we need to get more aggressive in the streets. And if he gets off, we need to do more and more. As she's saying this, there's rioting and there were drive-bys of the National Guard. Not defend the National Guard. I'm just saying this is what was going on. There were acts of violence, and she said we need to be doing more
Confrontational.
I
don't know what's more confrontational than literally burning down your own city. How can it get worse than that? Are we going to start forming militias and attacking the officers in the National Guard? Is that what she's trying to say?
I know that the big conservative thing right now is saying that he didn't get a fair trial
or he did nothing wrong.
Well, no, I don't think that at all. Look, I'm gonna be real blunt. I said this on Twitter. I'm not a fan of Derek Chauvin. I think that Dave Smith had one of the best takes on this whole thing. If you want to go read his tweets on this, just scroll back to Tuesday. Best things. I kind of had similar feelings before he wrote that. My feelings basically, I'm not going to quote myself, but were that Derek Chauvin was the same guy who would have busted you for not having a permit for a handgun, would have busted you for having some plant or some kind of drug that causes no harm to yourself or anybody else, would have busted you if you opened up your business in violation of a lockdown order. So I'm not really a fan of the dude. Okay? He's a police officer. He would have had no problem doing that, and he would have gone home and slept just fine. So I'm not defending him. What I am worried about, and by this case, and the reason why I really wanted the correct outcome, guilty or not guilty, I didn't really have a dog in. I didn't really care on what happened to him as far as the verdict. What I wanted the truth, and I wanted the correct decision to come out. Because now the precedent has been set, and they're already admitting this. They already said, well, it took a year of us in the streets and us being confrontational and us being violent to get this matter done. So they're already coming out and admitting that the riots had some type of influence on this thing. So what's going to happen now? Are we going to see something similar? I'm going to go this other example in a little bit, where there was a knife attack. Cop shoots the person trying to stab someone in the neck. Complete justifiable shooting. I'm not defending the police, and I can sit there and say that they effectively neutralized the threat and still be against the monopolized institution of the police force. I can still do the same thing. That's not a self-own in that regard. So what? Now if the mob and if the media decides that this is a worthy cause to go out and fight in the streets for, that are we no longer going to have any sort of fair trial and fair justice system, if you want to use quotation marks on that, any longer? Because, oh, well, if we disagree with your opinion or disagree with your ruling, well, we're just going to burn the whole thing down. Is that what this is coming to?
I think it largely is. And maybe we can get into this a little bit about police going forward. If you're seeing what's happening with Derek Chauvin, you're going to see what's going to happen with this Kim Potter lady, the lady that shot Dante Wright. You're going to see it again happen with the guy that shot that girl in Ohio. If you're going to get railroaded and used as a sacrificial lamb because you did your job or you followed the training, you did what the city wanted you to do, and you still go to prison, maybe it's time for you guys to resign. If the city doesn't want you, if the elected officials, the people in charge at the government, the local level, don't support you, if the people have voted to defund you or to abolish you, and you still go out and do the things that they don't want you to do, which creates another problem where people are rioting and there's looting and all this and all that, and you continue to go out and do these things, maybe it's just time for you to resign. Because I'm hearing from a lot of police departments that, well, we're going to continue to arrest people for doing these crimes, even though the DA is going to release them. So it's like, what's the point? It's kind of like you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's literally the definition of insanity. So I think a lot of police officers need to resign. And if you continue to arrest people, even though you know the DA is going to let them loose, and it creates more violence, and it creates more rioting and looting, I got a problem with you now. Because you don't have to do that. Like this officer, the one that shot that girl who was trying to stab someone else, shouldn't have done anything. There was another incident where a 12 or 13-year-old was charged with murder because she stabbed somebody else, and I'm like, thank God the police weren't there. I'm being serious. You know, if the people don't want you there, and you show up anyway, I'm sorry, but that's kind of on you now. You know, a lot of them was, well, we're in it for the pension, we're in it for the paycheck. Well, no, that's not right either. Because now you're just stealing from me, even though you're not going to do, or you're doing the things that are going to cause more problems. So it's possible for me to hold the position of, it was a justified shooting, but maybe you shouldn't have done that because now look what's coming next. So, police, the individual, I think a lot of them are good people. I happen to know, we have some in our family, I know people. They're the best people, a lot of them. They're good people. They want to do the right thing. But they're involved in an institution that is the monopoly on force. It is the monopoly on violence. They are the state. I thought it was hilarious. You had all these progressives and a lot of these liberals saying, well, he's an agent of the state. But did you realize that the state was the one prosecuting him?
Yeah, the state won.
The state won.
The state won.
The state was prosecuting the state.
It was the state versus Derek Chauvin was the case.
And he happened to be an agent of the state. So you're literally siding with your oppressors. You're siding with the Eye of Mordor.
What happened is, and I firmly believe this, that Derek Chauvin was the sacrificial lamb. He was the one you saw. All these police officers, now I don't know whether or not they were genuine or if they were caught up in the emotion of this movement that you have to be against what happened, or else you're for George Floyd dying. Right? There was no nuance in the public discussion. There was no free thought in the public discussion. It was either oh well you thought that George Floyd was murdered, or you somehow for it.
Well, I hold a different position. I don't think he was necessarily murdered. I don't think what Chauvin did was necessarily all that wrong. First of all, George Floyd was a victim of the war on drugs. Second of all, he's a victim of counterfeiting. Now, I don't think counterfeiting should be illegal, because if Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen can do it, then so should we. But when they do, it's called monetary policy.
But Joe, they're going through the proper channels.
I really don't care, because the proper channels is just literally adding zeros into bank accounts. That's not okay. So
what's that one meme? It said that they'll murder you for counterfeiting a 20, but they'll call counterfeiting 2 trillion
monetary policy.
Monetary policy. Yeah.
There's no difference. And don't give me inflation. No, a single $20 bill has no effect. No effect. It's like a drop of gasoline in the entire ocean. No effect. So Floyd was a victim of the war on drugs, because when you're taking these kinds of pills or these kinds of drugs, it's illegal, and you can't go and get help because it's illegal. So for all the people that are saying we shouldn't do drugs, well, people get addicted. A lot of them, they can't help it. It's like an alcoholic. Until they go and get help, they can't help it. A lot of them. So if you think that prison rape is a good way to deal with addiction versus getting them to a place where they can go to rehab, I mean, okay, if you want to do that, that's on you. But when you have things that are illegal like this, they can't just come out of the shadows and say, hey, I've got a problem here. Because if they get pulled over and they've got possession of something, they go away for a long time. And that's the reason why Floyd swallowed all of those drugs, because if they found it on his person,
he would have gone away.
He's going to jail for a long time. The counterfeit $20 bill, that should be dismissed in court. That's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever.
Especially after the year that you have the context of, I don't know what George Floyd's
giving out
was
hundreds of billions of dollars to corporate bailouts,
and then deeming it illegal for a lot of these people to work, and then you're going to sit there and arrest a guy. Now, there was a lot of footage that came out before that Floyd was trying to.
He was resisting arrest.
He was, not just that, but he was trying to redeem himself because of his past mistakes. He had a past. That isn't just because you have a past doesn't mean you should be killed or you should be murdered. Now, Chauvin was responding to a guy who was resisting arrest. So all he knows is that, okay, there is this guy resisting arrest. He's acting crazy, so I need to go neutralize the threat. Guy throws him in the car. He says, "Let me out. Put me on the ground." He puts him on the ground, and then he happens to die. We can sit here and debate all day long about whether the knee to the neck of the shoulders was the proper restraint. You're not gonna. There's so much nuance there. I'm in the camp that if you saw a private citizen doing that, then probably a cop shouldn't be doing that. So that's where I stand on that. But you're gonna charge a guy with murder. That's not a light crime for something that even I'm going to talk about what one of the jurors, one of the alternate jurors had to say. I don't see it. And manslaughter, sure. There was a case he made, and I said if he's charged, he's gonna get charged for what, third degree, second degree manslaughter. I think that's the charge was. That was the lightest. I said that probably. But murder, I whenever the murder charge came out, I said, yep, they're sacrificing him. They're gonna let him. The state is going to sacrifice one of their own in hopes to appease the mob, and
Ain't working.
It's not working. The autonomous zone is still up. They're not going anywhere. They said that Obama came out and said that, well, it's not justice. Like, okay, what more do you want?
It's a
you got him. You got him. You got your man. You got your pound of flesh. What do you want now? Folks, if you thought for a second that Chauvin being convicted of all 3 accounts, second degree murder, third degree, and manslaughter, convicted of all 3, if you thought for a second that the mob was going to let up, you were kindly mistaken. They're not going to let up. They're going to use this as fuel. They got their cookie, and they're going to want a glass of milk too now. That's how this is going to go down.
Well,
and now that you've shown them that public pressure and violence and confrontation with police in these inner cities works for influencing a jury, and works because I have right here one of the alternates said that ultimately, she said I was worried about whatever the verdict may be. Some people felt strongly on one side and some people felt strongly on the other side. So no matter what I felt like, someone was going to be unhappy. No matter what happened, somebody was going to be upset. I'm telling you, this woman was probably as scared that if she voted not guilty and he got off, that someone's going to come to her house or they'll find out where she lives.
There was, I heard this, I don't know if it's 100% true or not, but someone had released the descriptions without the names of all the jurors. Their, like, facial descriptions and what they looked like. And
they're trying to dox them?
Trying to dox them. Someone had reportedly had left, like, the decapitated heads of pigs on the front lawns and stuff like that. So, there absolutely is jury intimidation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't know how, which is why I think this is going to appeals.
Yes.
I think it's 100% going to go to appeals.
Maybe that's why he didn't show so much emotion at first when they read the verdict.
Maybe the whole defense strategy was that, hey, we're going to appeals on this one. There was a good video. You can look it up. Hotep Jesus had on an attorney who said, absolutely, this is going to go to appeals. There's no doubt.
And Hotep is not a big fan of the cops?
No, Hotep is an anarchist, too. Yeah. So yeah, he's also an agorist too. So yeah, he's no fan of the police and no fan of the state either. The attorney he had on said basically the appeals court process in Minneapolis is basically where they go to a Supreme Court style where it's only judges, there's no jury, and the judges are going to decide whether or not to take this up. If they don't get the result they feel is justified, they can go all the way up to the Minnesota Supreme Court if they decide to take up the case. But this is going to be going to...
And they can go up to the actual Supreme Court.
Yes. Yeah. So this will go to appeals. He even said in the interview that the reason why they did 8 weeks before sentencing is they're dragging this thing on and on and on because they know that this thing is not done yet.
Yeah, it's not over for Chauvin.
Now, for Chauvin... If it goes to appeals, I'm batting 0 for 1 so far. I think he gets off on some of these things. Now, I don't think he walks free. I think he still spends a few years in prison. But I could very easily see that second degree murder charge being dropped, and the third degree, which wasn't even supposed to be on there, because they took it off, and then they brought it back on because of the appeals court. I think is what brought it back on or something. Yeah. So I could easily see those first 2 being dropped. I still think that he can get the manslaughter charge. That's what I still think. But it's far from over.
Yeah.
This has got a long way to go. But the biggest thing that I was worried about, and this is not me rushing to the aid. This is not me licking the boot of the state or licking the boot of police officers or anything like that. What I was worried about with the verdict of this is that we're setting a very dangerous precedent that you can use jury intimidation and you can cause an uproar and violence to influence a trial. And I believe that's what we saw. Without a doubt, I believe that is what we saw in this case.
I would have to agree.
But I really, thankfully, there was not as much violence. I mean, there still was some violence. My biggest thing last episode was just hopefully there's peace, and hopefully I'm tired of seeing people's businesses being burned to the ground. That's got
Lives disrupted and everything.
There was another video came across my YouTube feed I watched before recording this. It was I think it was in Minneapolis, one of those one of the major cities. They had it was one of those. It was the guy. I don't remember who this. There was one guy who owned a sports bar, and it got completely torched. And as they were interviewing him, looters broke in and were trying to pick up the safe and drag the safe out. And he's sitting there crying like, I've lost everything. It's a black guy. I lost everything. I lost my entire life savings.
Where's the justice in that?
Yeah, George would have been very happy about you torching a man's sports bar. For justice, right? Though it's for George.
Yeah, and I don't get the reaction from a lot of the conservative types that were saying, well, he was the most publicized overdose. I'm like, oh, come on. A lot of people are saying, well, Chauvin didn't do anything wrong. Well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Some of them are almost taking it to the point, well, he kind of deserved it because he resisted arrest. No, you don't deserve to die because you resist arrest.
Yes.
If they're coming to take your guns, are you just going to bend over and say, oh, here they are, officer? No, of course you would say no. If they're trying to search your car without a warrant and there's no probable cause, of course you say no. They're trying to search your person, of course you say no. So I don't... The right looks at... I don't get this about the right, the so-called limited government types. They look at this. They look at the state. They look at policing, and they're complete simps. They're complete bootlickers for police. I don't get it. You people realize that these are the people that will take your guns away, that will burn your Bibles, that will force you to get the vaccine if they do that. Those are the people that are going to do that. So, at the very least, there should be some form of animosity towards them because they are the literal agents of the state. So, and I don't get that. But that doesn't mean that they always act wrong or everything that they do is wrong. Like with that case where that 15 or 16-year-old girl was about to stab someone, that officer had every right. He had like less than 15 seconds to make a decision on what he was going to do. He had his gun out. She had her arm pulled back like she was getting ready to go in for the stab. And he was like, well, I got a decision to make. I think he had 15 seconds to decide because as soon as he got out of the car, it all happened like that. I watched the body cam footage, and I was like, dang, that was fast.
Yeah.
I had to play it a couple times because I'm like, I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation.
So those who don't know what we're talking about, this is the same day?
Is the day of the
verdict. The day
verdict.
of the verdict. There was a shooting by an officer against a black teenager, Malika Bryant. There was an officer who was, I think he was responding to a public disturbance or a...
Someone had called and said, we need an officer here now.
Yeah, officer here
Someone's
now.
getting stabbed.
So you can watch the full body cam footage. It is up. MSNBC has been caught doctoring this thing to show that she wasn't holding a knife in her hand. So if you ever wanted to know who the real enemy of the people are, you can look no further than the media. They were saying... They were saying that, she wasn't holding anything, and then they clipped it in a certain way to make it look like he shot before she held the knife. Completely dishonest. So basically what happens is that obviously there's no way for me to play this for you. But what happened is that he responds to a call. There is a tumble on the ground. These two girls get up. One is being pinned against a car, and then she has a knife getting ready to... has her arm against her and then has a knife in her right hand, and you can see there is an intent to stab, and she goes for it. Officer takes it, pop.
4 shots.
4 shots, takes her down, and the outrage about this. Now, the outrage started, of course, whenever LeBron James...
No, it was immediately after the shooting because one of the bystanders there's like, come on, bro, she was just a kid.
Yes. But I'm saying is that when it reached complete national lunacy is whenever LeBron James doxed the photo of the alleged officer who shot him and basically shot her and said that you're next, #accountability. Now, LeBron James... I've watched this numbers of times getting ready for this episode because I understand we're going to talk about it. So I watched it. Here's the way that I judge police action. Is of course I'm the kind of guy who would advocate for a little more of a free market, private security force, or a civilian private militia force. That's what I'd rather have. I'm not opposed to the idea of a police force. I just don't want it being ran by the monopoly of the state. So I'm not opposed to peacekeepers who are armed. I'm not opposed
policing is needed.
Yeah, policing
in any
is
society.
100%. I just don't like the idea of it being operated and ran by the state. That's just my opinion. So that's how I look at these things through the lens. Or I look at the lens of, hey, if there is a armed bystander who happens to walk by and see the situation, and they respond accordingly, how would I feel about that? That's why I look at the issue with George Floyd. If there was a private citizen who was putting a knee to another person's neck, even if they were being rowdy, kind of makes me wince a little bit. That's not how I would treat another human being who wasn't acting violent towards me. Now, and in this example, if the police officer was replaced with a hired security force or a armed bystander who happened to be walking by and shot and killed somebody who was attempting to stab another person in the neck, I would have no issue with that.
No.
I'm sorry. I have no issue with that. I've always said that if you take up your arms, whether that be a lethal item as far as like a baseball bat or a knife or anything that can cause bodily harm to someone, guns, anything, and you initiate violence against somebody, you forfeited your life. You have therefore opened up the opportunity for someone else to retaliate to neutralize that threat. If this were the case with me and someone were to take up a knife against one of my family members or a friend, I would have no problem neutralizing that threat by any means necessary. Or anybody else for that matter. If I was walking through the downtown square of my city and I saw someone holding a machete chasing somebody, I would have no problem if someone were to go neutralize that threat. Now, because we live in a completely clown upside down world by a bunch of people who have no idea how guns work and have no idea how to neutralize a threat effectively, we had stupid takes like from Joy Behar and other people who were saying, oh, well, he should have fired a warning shot in the air, or he should have shot her in the leg, or he should have shot the gun out of her, or he should have shot the knife out of her hand.
Yeah, because that's how it works.
Okay, I'm going to break these down one at a time to make this point extremely clear. You do not shoot a warning shot into the air with a gun. Never. Any gun instructor will always tell you to never fire a weapon in the air because you know why? This is not the movies.
Well, it's kind of like what
goes up must come down. He's holding a handgun. That is a pretty substantial. I'm saying he's
powerful.
He's probably shooting a 40 caliber, probably
9
something,
millimeter.
probably
It's
something
probably
like
a
that.
Glock.
Okay, that is a nice chunk of lead or whatever round he's using. That carries a lot of energy. If you shoot that thing in the air, a couple 100 yards away, 1,000 yards away, that bullet will fall down and it will carry a lethal amount of energy and it could possibly kill somebody. You never fire a weapon in the air. There is no such thing as a warning shot. Anyone who says, oh, you just should have fired your pistol in the air like this is like the Old West.
Shoot the ground.
Or you should have fired in the air like it's the Old West, right? Fires in the Old West, everyone scatters. No, you never do that. In many states, you can get a murder charge if you fire that weapon and they can prove that it came from your gun. So never do that. Anybody who's saying that is completely illiterate when it comes to guns, gun safety, and should be immediately dismissed and destroyed online, rightfully so. He should have shot her in the leg. Yeah, because I guess major arteries in your leg don't exist.
Or you might miss and hit the other girl.
Yeah, because keep in mind, in this shot, the girl holding the knife is standing in between of the target.
She's standing in front of the target.
And standing in front of the target.
The other girl she's trying to stab.
Yeah, so he is in line of sight. So he has to hit a solid mass, or else that bullet could possibly go through or miss and hit the person that he's trying to save.
I think my favorite one is, well, he should have shot the knife out of her hands. Right, because every cop is John Wick.
Or every cop is the Waco Kid from Blazing Saddles.
Yes. So let me get this straight. So you want him to shoot the knife out of her hand even though the knife is in front of the girl who's about to be stabbed?
Or it is in full motion.
Yes.
It is a moving target.
So here's what I want everyone to do. If you're making that stupid argument he should have shot the knife out of her hand, I want you to go watch the video and show me how much time he actually had to make a decision. He made the right one, but do you know how long it takes? You can't just take your gun out of your quick draw out of your holster and shoot someone's knife out of their hand. That doesn't happen. This isn't the movies. This isn't GTA. This isn't a video game.
This isn't Red Dead Redemption where
This
you have
isn't
the
Red Dead
slow, where you have the Deadeye mode. No, what they want him
He's
to do.
not John Wick.
No, what they want him to do is that they wanted him to be like the Waco Kid from Blazing Saddles, have his arms crossed, and then in a split second pull both of his handguns out, both of his revolvers out, spit him on his fingers, and then knock all the guns out of the cowboy's hands. That's what he wanted.
Yes.
They expect this man to sit there and shoot a moving knife whenever he has a split-second decision when he sees that knife drawn in and he's being thrusted towards the victim. He has a decision to make. He says, if I shoot for the knife, here's those options. If I shoot in the air, that doesn't stop the knife from going into that person's body. She is going to die. If I shoot her in the leg, it still does not stop that knife from going to that person's body. She will die, and so will the target because, major arteries also exist there. You can bleed out in a matter of minutes. And if he goes to shoot the knife out of her hand and I miss, I'm killing the person I'm trying to save. So the only effective shot is a shot to the body, is a shot to the biggest mass to neutralize the threat, and he did it correctly, and he did it with precision.
Yeah.
To not have any collateral damage is pretty amazing.
Well, she's the collateral damage, Jacob.
Oh my gosh.
So
don't raise a knife at somebody.
Without even researching this, I can guarantee you the military, police, private security, other countries do not train people to shoot things out of the hand. If you're going to pull your gun out, which is a serious thing, and you're going to aim it at somebody, you shoot to kill. You don't shoot to wound or to shoot someone in the leg or shoot in the hand. No, you shoot to kill. Because if you don't, then that person can get back up and stab again. Another great one is, he should have tased her. Out of range for a taser. Taser don't always work.
Don't always work.
Don't always work.
And if they don't always work, roll this out in your head, okay? First of all, he's too far away for a taser. Taser has to work within 4 or 5 feet. They don't shoot very far.
It's close distance.
Yeah, he's out of range. They don't always work. So let's just say he shoots the taser, it doesn't work.
Now what?
And then you have a person who now has a knife sticking out of their neck who is going to die. What does he do now? Oh well, I'm sorry I didn't save you, but I can't kill anybody right now. I can't use lethal force, but
or another thing,
I tried my best to save you.
Let's say the taser works. Do you know what happens when you are tased? All of your muscles tense up. You basically become like a stick figure. So what happens? Does she lean forward with the knife? Maybe she stabs her anyway. And you know what happens then? The cop gets blamed for killing the kid.
Because he didn't neutralize the threat correctly.
Or the other one, he should have used pepper spray. Yeah, because pepper spray works really well when they've got their back turned to you.
When their face is not facing you.
So what's he supposed to do? Say, stop right there. Let me get in front of the car and let me pepper spray you before you stab her. Stop. No, don't. Oh, too late. She's been stabbed. No, the right answer was to shoot her. Now, this is a tragedy, without a doubt. It's heartbreaking that we have a situation here where someone was about to be stabbed, but the officer had literally that much time to make a decision, and he made the right one.
And of course they were using the argument, oh well, this is a race issue, right?
It had nothing to do with
shot
race.
Because she was black. I did a quick Google search. I typed in a white knife wielding woman shot by police. Came up. There's an incident not but a few months ago. There was a woman in Nevada who was a little crazy, little off of it. She had her children, and police pulled over because she was walking in the middle of the street. She grabbed a knife that she had on her and started chasing police officers with it. Got close to slashing one. Cop pulled his gun out, said, "Ma'am, stop it, stop it, stop it." She ran after him, nearly slashed him, shot and killed him. Well, what do you want him to do? What do you want him to do?
Should have left her alone, Jacob.
If you saw a bystander and you saw a woman who was slashing a knife at a bystander and the person had to have a gun shot, what do you want to do? Like I hate that we have to do this. I hate this. But like, what do you want these people to do?
Just let it happen?
Just let it happen? You should just let yourself get stabbed. And some parts are like, oh, well, no woman should get shot in front of their children. I'm like, yeah, I agree. But you're slashing a deadly weapon at somebody. I don't... They're going to find any excuse other than killing them. They will search for any excuse. As far as Joe Behart, the host of The View, saying he should have shot a warning shot. No, Joey, no. By you saying that, clearly points to me that you've never fired a weapon and you don't know how guns work. He wasn't using a shotgun with bird shot, which is the only reason why you can shoot it in the air is because
it's what it's meant for.
It's what it's meant for.
But he wasn't carrying a shotgun.
He wasn't carrying a shotgun. He was carrying a handgun, which has energy behind the bullet.
I think that's the most telling is the way everyone's responding to this.
Yes.
Is that, well, this is just a schoolyard fight. Knife fights happen all the time.
Gosh.
Really? They do? I don't remember getting in fights as a kid with prison shanks. Does anybody else?
I mean, that's what high school is nowadays. I mean, there's just prison
shanking
shanks
each other
and knife fights. No. Anyone who is out there saying that, oh, well, knife fights is a common thing. Yeah, because assault with a deadly weapon with the intent to harm
it's just so commonplace.
It's a part of growing up.
Yeah.
It's a part of growing up. No, it's not how we act in a society. It's not how we act as civilized people. We don't, whenever you raise a deadly weapon to someone with the intent to harm, at that point you have violated the NAP, and you have any sort of lethal force is permitted to use against you. And I'm sorry, I don't care what color you are. If you raise a weapon against somebody and you die for that, you are going to go down. It goes for anybody. I have nothing. I have no like. I hate this had to happen. People said what the one mother came out and said that she had a motherly instinct.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what kind of mother you're talking about.
Maybe there was that one in the middle of the road that was.
I was curious to hear about what happened. I was curious to see if they had any interviews with the girl who was trying to be stabbed, and they interviewed her, and she said, quote, "She effing came at me with a knife." The girl said, who was attempted to be stabbed. So it's not like she was like, "Oh no, why'd you shoot her? We were just playing around." No, she came at me with a knife. And for folks who don't know, knives can kill people. I know that there is a common misconception. Oh, it's just a knife. What are you so afraid of? Yeah. A knife to the neck is lethal. A knife to the leg, if you hit a major artery, is lethal. You can bleed out in 2 or 3 minutes and be dead. Dead. That's why a shot to the leg is so stupid. Because if you hit that femoral artery,
you're going down.
You are dead. You have minutes to live. And even if you have an EMS on the site, you still are not making it out of there. There's just too much blood loss. So no, it's a stupid argument. It's so dumb. And you saw marches for this before the facts were out. Why do you think I wait to comment on stuff on Twitter or on this podcast before I fully understand all the facts? It's because it's okay to wait.
Yeah.
It's okay to sit there and say, "Hey, I don't know all this stuff. I'm pretty ignorant on this. I'm going to hold my reserve, my judgment until I understand all the facts on this kind of stuff." No, you had marches in the streets. Marches for the person who's an attempted murder of somebody who saved them. And then you had in Cincinnati, you had a stabbing of a 13-year-old girl, I believe, and there was no police officer to save them. But I guess now that stabbings are just common occurrences, so who really cares?
It's not really that big of a deal.
What do you complain about, little girl? You got stabbed. That's just a rite of passage, according to some people on Twitter, and some blue check marks. Not just some idiots, some blue check mark. Still pretty stupid, but man, I use the term clown world. I titled the first Substack column, but man, clown world, dude.
You know what's going to happen, and this is probably what's going to happen, unfortunately, is that if an officer gets this kind of call and he shows up at the scene and it's only black individuals involved, he's probably going to say, "You know what? It ain't worth it."
Or if there's any chance of escalation.
No. If an officer gets called to a scene where someone's about to get stabbed or someone's got a gun and it's a black individual that's doing this, trying to be racist here. If that's the case, then he's probably going to say, "You know what? It probably isn't worth it because it's going to be spun as, well, I'm racist, I had it out for him, I came there with the intent to kill. Even though the officer might be trying to defend other black people that are involved in the situation, it really doesn't matter. Because no one wants to hear from the girl that was almost stabbed. Nobody wants to hear from her. It's all about the murderer, or the attempted murderer.
Yeah, you're gonna start seeing, especially what happened with Chauvin. It's the reason why Tim Pool's has been raising the alarm for this a long time ago, about how cops need to really, really decide if it's worth it, because as I showed with Chauvin, there was people that came out and testified that said he could have used more lethal force, he could have used stronger force to detain Floyd, and he didn't. He reserved himself in that regard in the eyes of that one witness. And he still got the book thrown at him. So, you're going to see in some of these cases, that's why I'm so afraid about what the precedent is now being set. If a cop does their job and does everything right, and now I don't know the outcome of this case, I don't know what's going to happen, I think it's pretty clear cut. Then again, the complete lunacy world that we live in today, this thing might have some kind of criminal prosecution. I have no idea what's going to happen from this case with this officer. I hope nothing comes from this, because I think the officer acted completely justified in his actions in this. But let's just say, hypothetically, this guy gets a manslaughter charge. What are you going to do now, officers? Like, seriously. There's no financial incentive anymore. It's not like police officers are just raking in the dough. So what? These people don't want you there. They don't. They voted to abolish the police. They voted to defund the police. They clearly don't want you there. So why are you going in?
This kind of gets to another thing that I wanted to mention today, is that, I think conservatism and Republicans are, it's becoming a grift, just like much it is you see on the left. What happens is that, a lot of the right-wingers will say, in a just society, we would give this cop an award versus slandering him, which, okay, maybe.
Which one? The
one that shot the knife wielder. Which, okay, maybe. But this is where they kind of fall off the wagon for me, is that the left, when they say they're going to do something, they're serious. They're going to do it. When the right says there's something, they're not serious. They're not going to do anything. I find it hilarious that while all this is going down, Ted Cruz comes out and says, well, we got to kneecap Joe Biden's outrageous spending. What? Dude, you had 4 years of Trump in the White House. You had 2+ years of a Republican-controlled Congress, and you still didn't do anything. How long have conservatives and Republicans been railing against abortion? Forever. Gun control? Forever. Nothing ever happens. But when the Democrats or the progressives or liberals say, we want to pack the Supreme Court, Joe Biden's not even in the White House a year. And we're looking at commissions of whether or not if we should expand the court. They've already defunded the police in a lot of major cities. The border, whatever. Taxes, they're going up.
Did you see the new capital gains tax doubled?
Yeah, they're serious. When they say we're going to march in the streets and we're going to burn the city down, they do it.
They do it.
When they say that we're going to, there's another example I had that was so brilliant, but I can't remember what it is now. But when the left says something when the left says they're going to do something, they eventually get around to do it. The right, not so much. So we play this game of, well, the Republicans will say, well, we got to stop Joe Biden, but you're not doing it. When you get into office, you're like, well, we're going to ram through our agenda, and you don't do it. And yet you still have these idiot Republicans and conservatives that continue to vote for Republicans, even though they don't do anything. I'm tired of seeing all these right-wingers like Glenn Beck and whatnot saying, well, we stand with police. Do they stand with you? Let's be honest. There's someone that we work with that is a part of the National Guard, and someone asked her, and the question was, if your order is to confiscate guns, will you do it? And the answer was, well, if that's my order, that's my order. No, you're not on that side. If you ask a lot of officers saying, if the order is to confiscate guns, will you do it? And they say, well, if that's my order, that's my order. No, there's this little thing called the Constitution, right? The right likes to, parade around with their pocket constitutions, like to whip it out, and it's like they think that it's the crucifix before Dracula, but it's really just, It's that little thing you wind up and the clown comes out.
No. So what the Constitution is that it is the gun-free
Yes.
zone sign for conservatives.
Yes.
You have no power here.
Yes. And they think that if they just pull out this crucifix before Dracula, that will somehow make the evil witch melt. But you know what happens? And the conservatives do the same thing. They laugh in your face. Because you maybe have a handful, if that, of people that actually want to abide by it. Everyone else, it's perfectly legal for all of us to just, do insider trading. It's amazing how all these representatives got filthy, stinky rich when the pandemic hit. Isn't that kind of funny? Yes. Or they know when they buy into weapons contractors. They know when things are about to go south. They know when to buy these stocks or that stock, right? It's amazing how that happens. So they don't care about you. They're not on your side. And I don't know how long it's going to take for the majority of the right-wing America to realize that. But, it's funny how Ted Cruz will come out and say, because he knows, if I say, well, we got to, kneecap Joe Biden's spending, everyone's like, oh, well, he's right. He's so right.
After you just passed all of Trump's spending.
After 4 years of Donald Trump, when spending exploded under him. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Joe Biden. I'm not. His spending is out of control, too. But it's in the trend. It's like ever since Bush, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It's no different, folks. Just the numbers. The crap they shovel around every 4 years, Jacob, it's the same old, same old. So.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
I'm just some 23-year-old idiot who doesn't know anything, so take my advice for what it's worth.
For what it's worth. I think in many of these cases that you're 100% right. The Constitution, as I've always said, conservatives will continue to lose because they are playing a rigged game. I've given the example. It's like in baseball. The conservatives are playing by the old school traditions. 9 innings, 3 outs. The Democrats are like, no, we're going to get 9 innings. You're only going to get 4.5 innings. And we're going to get 6 outs. You only get 3 outs.
And we're going to start banging on trash cans.
Yes, yeah.
And we're going to steal signs. We're going to steal signs.
It's like, oh, look at us. We're playing by the rules. Whenever they're running on the bases, styling across the bases, and you're like, oh no, we're playing by the rules. You know what? They're gonna cheat, not us. We have integrity. We're playing by the rules. I'm not advocating for cheating of the system, but you have to understand what you're going up against. This is not exactly a fair trial, a fair shot for conservatives. That's why I find it funny even to this day that people still give Shane Hazel crap. All of these completely feckless people in the GOP of Georgia. Because they said, oh well, you stole the Senate from us because of your election. It's like, okay, what were you gonna do with that seat? What were you gonna do with that seat?
And furthermore,
nothing. You weren't gonna do anything with that seat.
The House is voting on whether or not they're going to add a 51st state. So even if the Republicans won, they still would have lost because they're looking at adding more states.
Yeah, like bro, there's nothing.
They're not playing honestly, and it's time you all realize that.
And you had the majority. I keep saying this. In 2016 and 2018, you had the majority in every major aspect of government in the federal side. You did nothing. Nothing happened. There was no national constitutional carry that was passed. There was no
spending
reform. Cuts. There was nothing done with legalizing drugs. Nothing done about abortion. Nothing was done. So why should I trust you again?
Every now and then you see a crack in the code, if you will, in the matrix that we live in, because Matt Welsh, who's one of those Blaze reporters, who is about 20% good, 80% bad, he said, "What lasting effect do we have from the Trump administration? The border wall? Is that it? Because Biden said we're going to continue to build that. Is that it? Everything else is out the window."
All gone.
Even Steve Dace was like, if Trump was president, things would obviously better. Would they be? We still, the country burned for months during the summer of 2020. Trump was president. We had the worst response to a pandemic while Trump was president. The entire country was locked down. The governors became dictators while Trump was president. We're still in the wars.
Yeah.
We still got gun control. Abortion's still legal. What was better?
I think you're going to start seeing a lot more and more of people moving over to our side, because I keep saying this, and eventually I want to have a conversation with Shane about it. Shane Hazel, those who don't know, he's running for governor next year of Georgia, the state we happen to reside in. But there's a lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans who said, I'm not voting for Kemp. Sure as heck not going to vote for Stacey Abrams, who's the presumptive person who's going to run for the Democrats. But I'm not voting for Kemp. He locked us down. Why should I vote for him? He locked us down. Took us. He's been feckless and everything else. Why should I vote for him? Well, I'm telling you, there's going to be there's a lot
of people that I know that I've had conversations with, and
they
say they're not voting for Brian
Kemp.
And I say, you know what, good for you, because what I mean, there's nothing exciting about Brian Kemp. I mistakenly I stumbled upon some of his campaign ads. I'm like, this is what it takes. This is what it takes for someone to get elected as a Republican? Just parade around in your pickup truck with your shotguns and your Bibles? Is this what it takes? Is this how dumb conservative voters are? I mean, come on. What about Brian Kemp is all that great? Well, he's not Stacey Abrams. Okay, well, that ain't saying much. That's not saying a whole lot. Because I remember in March of 2020 not being able to go to church. Remember not being able to go to Walmart or any store that I wanted without the face diaper, without, standing on the little plastic piece on the ground saying, stay 6 feet apart. I remember all that. I remember people getting arrested. I remember people losing their jobs. And when it was later decided we're going to open back up, there was no retribution for people that lost everything. But for people like Brian Kemp, everything keeps moving along. Right? I'm still getting the paycheck. The cop's still getting the paycheck. The social worker, shut your business down, she's still getting a paycheck. Meanwhile, you've got people now homeless because they lost everything. No retribution.
Yeah. Well,
before we go, I was up early for work this morning. I was at work at 4:30 this morning, which is way too early. But I was able to watch the launch. SpaceX.
Oh, yes.
Launched 4 more astronauts to the International Space Station. They reused the booster. The first stage was reused from the last time. And the capsule was also reused from Bob and Doug's mission, the first demo mission. So everything that was involved there was pretty much reused. It's used for a second or a third time. So that makes, what that means, Jacob? Space travel's getting cheap, baby. It's getting cheap.
Yep, and that's something exciting. I realized, I thought you'd be up. There were some cool shots that were taken at Disney World where you could see the track of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, because the wee hours, because it basically launched right at sunrise in parts of Florida. So it's very, very cool.
It's like at 6:45, I think, Eastern.
Yep.
I can't.
Right as the sun was going up. It was very, very cool.
It was at 5:45. I can't remember.
Well, folks, that is going to be the episode of the show, episode 75. If you enjoyed what you're listening to and you said, hey, I like these guys. They're smart. They're not as stupid as I was told. They proved me wrong. You can support us by joining the website, patreon.com. You can check the link in the description. Want to get a t-shirt, get the Outrun Status and Useful Idiots t-shirt. Teespring store also in the description. Follow my Substack, Liberty Overdrive. That's substack.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at jstandard_, at Joe Stanberg. Show email, standardbrothershow.gmail.com.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to do as far as closing?
I think that's it for now.
Well, folks, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I hope that everybody has a hope everybody has a great weekend, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. And while you're having a great weekend, go have a great weekend.
You're doing that Austin Powers thing, aren't you, again? Allow myself to introduce myself.
I'll see everybody Monday.
Peace.
Take it easy.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger plane. Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.